So the Valar can't choose their forms. They just appear physically in whatever represents them. So basically, when Melkor Morgoth declares himself... So basically, his name as a god is Melkor, but the elves name him Morgoth, meaning the black enemy of the world. But when he declares himself, when basically the elves say, oh, this guy's Morgoth, the black enemy of the world, and Morgoth basically... Oh, Shadow Strike. LT and Tap A instantly transports you to your target's location.
We can teleport now.
Let's find out.
So we now be very careful. Don't target the Rancor.
So when I was Shadow Strike, oh shit, that's quite cool.
Oh, that's really fucking cool. So
and away we fucking go.
I think he'll catch us, and we're gonna die.
No, we can Shadow Strike again.
Oh, nice.
I mean, this is clearly what you're supposed to do here: is Shadow Strike your way out. But yeah, so when the elves declare him the black enemy of the world, and he's like, "Yeah, that's me," that's physically then how he appears from then on. Like he can't not do that because the Valar's physical forms are based on perception, so they appear how people expect them to be. The Maiar are not bound by that, which means that Sauron can appear as he chooses to be, and this is why Sauron is able to have this like beautiful form that the Maiar and Morgoth, for example, can't have, because he, as a powerful being, can choose how he appears. Gandalf is the same, but so Gandalf's... How much do you know about the background of Gandalf?
I know that like he's basically what amounts to like a minor deity in Lord of the Rings terms.
So, he's a Maiar called Olorin, who basically, his deal, whether he chose it or not, we have no idea, but his thing is...
To contest Middle-earth.
And stuff like that, but he's got a bit of a... It's not Aasimar, is it Deva in D&D? The ones who have like the whole memory of 1,000 lifetimes thing, but they're kind of a...
Yeah.
They're basically... When he is reincarnated as Gandalf... Gandalf is a subset of Olorin. Like Gandalf does not know everything that Olorin knows about the way of the world, which is why Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White are arguably quite different characters, because basically his essence kind of goes back to Iluvatar and gets somewhat reshaped between Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White, and that's why he's like, when he's like, oh yes, Gandalf, that was my name, Gandalf the Grey. Like, he's kind of reformed a bit, and that's why his personality is so different. And
this is one of the reasons I would love to do like the triple run of Lord of the Rings, which I've never done, is to see like how much of a difference there is between Gandalf the Grey and White.
Oh, huge! It's massive, yeah.
Gandalf the White is like much more serene and godlike and distant, which he ought to be.
Distant is the key thing. That like Gandalf the Grey is the kindly old man. You never see that from Gandalf the White. No. He's the fighter and the warrior, and it's the, as he says himself, it's the Saruman as he should have been thing, which is the thing that fires up the forces of good against Sauron. Was arguably what Saruman's role was supposed to be.
Hang on a minute, we're talking about Nazgul now. Like, whoa!
Sure I wasn't reading.
Yeah, like in the game they're talking about Nazgul.
I mean, that would make sense when we've just learned your man's Celebrimbor. Obviously, he's going to be fairly salty about. He forged the Nine. Like, he did that. Like, Sauron said, oh, it'd be fucking pimp if you made these rings. He's like, yeah, I will fucking do that. And, he's made 9 of the deadliest servants of the Dark Lord. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, but...
You are. One... But they are, because they can go abroad, they can mask themselves as men. Like, they are terrifying. Like... It's even in early drafts of the Fellowship of the Ring, like the Nazgul are horrifying. They're what drives the plot. They strike fear into the hearts of everyone they see. They're one of, for me, Tolkien's finest creations, the Nazgul. I love them. They're great. Ooh, we did some horror stuff now.
Yeah.
We obtained some valuable information from this one.
So who is this guy?
He was a friend ranger of ours. I think we thought he was dead in the attack on the Black Gate in the prologue, but he's still alive.
But he's been hanging around in Mordor in the intervening time.
Yeah. I don't know how long it's actually been since we died, so...
Oh, blasting powder. I thought only Saruman had that.
But what kind of sorcery could bring down the wall? How can fire undo stone?
Now, interestingly, obviously, in the final conception of the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf is held captive by the treacherous Saruman the White. But like his first idea was that like Gandalf would be held captive by Treebeard.
I want to that's fascinating, and I do want to get back to this, but I just want to praise this for being a game where the objective is follow the person, and I walk at the same fucking speed as them. So many times it's like, follow this person. They are walking faster than your walking speed, but slower than your sprinting speed. It's so nice to actually just, I mean, also, arguably, this should have been a cutscene and this doesn't trick me into thinking I'm doing gameplay, but it's still at least good that we are keeping pace with him without having to do either. Continue.
I mean, like, you play many, many more like video games than I do, but like apparently we're talking about poisoning orcs now with Hithalas.
Oh no, here we go.
Isn't that...
Now we're at the wrong pace. Sorry, go on. So what? Wait, right. Sorry, I said my thing, and then I was like, let's come back to your thing, and then I just realised what your thing was. Gandalf was going to be held captive by Treebeard.
Yeah, so in like the initial draft of Lord of the Rings, like Tolkien had to contrive a way, like he's obsessed, like it was compulsive. Like he had to find a reason that Gandalf wasn't with the hobbits when they departed from Bag End. Because obviously, like, by this time Gandalf knows what the One Ring is. Like, why would he ever like leave the hobbits to do this themselves? So
he's got to be delayed
a narrative. Exactly, he had to contrive a narrative conceit like why he couldn't come there, and there's several versions of this that he tries to come up with. So in the first instance, he contrives of an evil giant called Treebeard. So Gandalf goes off to find out more information about the ring, and Treebeard, the evil giant, captures him and holds him there. So initially, Treebeard was like a very malignant figure. Now, if you recall, some of this survives in the Fellowship. So, like, you remember the old forest on the borders of Buckland, where there's evil trees.
Yeah, that never made it into Jackson's thing, and that was kind of... Oh shit! There's that scene with the end draft in the extended Fellowship that kind of appropriates some of that content.
Yeah, but you can see how there's a through line there from like an evil tree giant who holds Gandalf captive to this evil forest on the borders of Buckland. Another thing that he had, and this was actually a lot cooler, is like Gandalf actually is driven out of the Shire by the Nazgul. So like, they find out he's there, and he tries to draw them off. And like they lay siege to him in one of the White Towers to the west of the Shire, like the Elvish Towers to the west. So Frodo has like a weird prophetic vision of Gandalf besieged by the 9 Black Riders around this tower. And that was another reason that Tolkien like dreamed up to like, which is actually almost cooler than being like trapped in the Tower of Orthanc.
They don't address it in the films, but in the book, overtly, Gandalf gets to Weathertop before the hobbits and fights off the Nazgul there.
Yep, there's a lot.
And it's a really cool thing. Like when he's describing it later, there's a brilliant line which is something like, "Such fire and fury has not been seen on Weathertop for 2,000 years," or something like that. It's like, fuck, that's cool.
It's really fucking cool. Like, there's a lot of permutations that Tolkien drafted. Like, again, there are dozens of drafts of like the initial chapters of Fellowship where he tries to get the dates right and tries to get the travel time correct and tries to like find what is to his mind a suitable reason for Gandalf to be delayed, but also still delay him enough that he arrives at the right places at the right times to like reconvene with the hobbits.
Like obviously it's kind of sad for obvious reasons, but it's also very cool. Like, it's so clear how much effort Tolkien put into this and how much he cared about that being like consistent.
Now, one of my favourite permutations of this, like this was a rejected draft, but there is a version of this where Gandalf comes to Crickhollow, which is like Frodo's house in Buckland,
the house that reminds you that it's 12 years before he leaves the Shire. No, 18 years even. Yeah. So this is the house, the halfway house, basically, he buys on the border of the Shire, so that like he can leave Bag End, go here, make preparations, and then leave. But his plans are accelerated by the arrival of the Nazgul. But like, there's a version of the story where Gandalf comes to Crickhollow to try and find Frodo before he rides on to find them Bree and Weathertop and thereafter. Okay, and like it was rejected, but it's in Tolkien's notes, and it honestly, I think maybe one of my favourite iterations of Tolkien's writing, which I'm going to find in my book and read to you in a moment. But it's some absolute dynamite in Tolkien's rejected versions of the Fellowship of the Ring. So give me a moment. The gate in the hedge opened, and up the path, quietly but in haste, a grey man came, wrapped in a grey cloak.
He halted, looking at the dark house.
Sorry to interrupt you briefly. This is Tolkien's own writing, like directly. Yeah.
This is Tolkien. This is a rejected draft of the Fellowship of the Ring.
Rejected.
Gandalf comes
rejected by
Buckland.
whom? By Tolkien or by publishers or something? Or is this Tolkien's rejected?
Oh
draft?
no, but by Tolkien. So there was never submitted to publishers.
This is a conversation I want to have a bit later about how much of the Lord of the Rings was altered by publishers, but that's a different conversation. Go on for now.
Oh, well, we will definitely get to that, but this is just Tolkien trying to solve the problem of Gandalf, trying to get to the Hobbits,
Gandalf,
but not exactly. There were sounds again. After a long time, a sound of hooves was heard in the lane, approaching swiftly. Horses were coming. Outside the gate they stopped, and then swiftly up the path there came 3 more figures, hooded, swathed in black, and stooping low towards the ground. One went to the door, one to the corner of the house end at either side, and there they stood silent as the shadows of black yew trees, while time went slowly on, and the horses and the trees about it seemed to be waiting breathlessly. Suddenly there was movement. It was dark, and hardly a star was shining, but the blade that was drawn gleamed suddenly, as if it brought with it a chill light keen and menacing. There was a blow, soft but heavy, and the door shuddered, open to the servants of the Lord. So this is the Nazgul speaking now. Interestingly, in very early drafts of Lord of the Rings, Sauron is almost never named. So Tolkien calls him the Lord, or he calls him the Necromancer. He almost never uses the word
Necromancer
Sauron.
was where it was in The Hobbit, yeah, definitely. Oh, shit.
So when this eventually makes it into the Fellowship, I think the Nazgul smite the door and they say, "Open in the name of Sauron." But I very, very seldom is the word Sauron actually used in initial drafts of Lord of the Rings. So, "Open to the servants of the Lord," said a voice thin, cold, and clear. At a second blow, the door yielded and fell back, its lock broken. At that moment, there rang out behind the house a horn. It rent the night like fire on a hilltop. Loud and brazen it shouted, echoing o'er field and hill. "Awake, awake! Fire, fire, fear, foe, awake!"
That's... Sorry, go on. Finish.
Oh no, please.
I was going to say, something not far from that is in the final version that the Nazgul do come to Crick Hollow. They don't, knock on the door, but that whole awake, fire, fear, foes in Crick Hollow is a thing in the real book. So, what happens in Fellowship is, they come to Crick Hollow, but, Fredrigar Fatty Bolger is in Crick Hollow. He's been left behind to kind of keep watching the house and, make sure that Frodo's, financial affairs are in order, etc., etc. He refuses to go with them onwards from Buckland, but he stays in the house. And when the Nazgul approach, he hears them and he slips out the back because hobbits are incredibly stealthy, blah blah blah. And he raises the alarm. But in this version, it's Gandalf Gandalf is in Crick Hollow, and the Nazgul accidentally surprise it. So awake, awake, fear, fire, foe, awake. Round the corner of the house came the grey man. His cloak and hat were cast aside, his beard streamed wide. In one hand was a horn, in the other a wand. A splendour of light flashed out before him. There was a wail and cry as off fell hunting beasts that are smitten suddenly and turned to fly in wrath and anguish. In the lane the sound of hoofs broke out, and gathering rapidly to a gallop raced madly into the darkness. Far away, answering horns were heard. Distant sounds of running, waking and alarm rose up. Along the roads folk were riding and running northward, but before them all there galloped a white horse, and on it sat an old man with long silver hair and flowing beard. His horns sounded over the hill and dale. In his hand his wand flared and flickered like a sheaf of lightning. Gandalf was riding to the north gate with the speed of thunder, and the chapter ends. That's quite cool.
And that, it's fucking dynamite is what it is. This is as good as anything we get in Fellowship, and it's testament to as much as he's not an author, Tolkien has moments of genuine, unbridled brilliance in these drafts. I truthfully think this might be my favourite bit of Tolkien writing that he's ever produced. I would read that again over anything that he puts into Fellowship. Yeah. It's just so cool. Gandalf was riding for the North Gate like thunder, and that's just fucking cool.
Yeah. No, I really did like that. Which I didn't really know much about them. It's interesting just seeing how much he was like, shit, I need to fucking nerf Gandalf basically.
Yeah, it's a fair assumption because he realized if Gandalf is with them, then he can solve all of their problems.
I mean, The Hobbit has that similar problem of Gandalf keeps repeatedly, mysteriously, and conveniently disappearing throughout The Hobbit.
Yeah. There's actually a really good letter that he writes to his publisher, early on when he's drafting Lord of the Rings, where he says, I think it's in 1938, he says openly to his publisher, "I don't care for The Hobbit. This was a children's story that I wrote. and it's been hugely popular, and my son loved it. But now I'm bound to this, and I want to do some serious writing, but I'm still shackled to The Hobbit. And the thing that, as far as like he described this to his publisher in 38, the thing that was most important to him was the matter of the elder days. That's a direct quotation, where like he was absolutely besotted with the notion of the Silmarillion and the legacy of the elves and Beren and Luthien and all this good stuff. But like he hated, narratively speaking, The Hobbit and how he was shackled to it.
It's interesting, like, no one can obviously miss the massive difference in narrative tone and structure and everything between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But it is, to me, always quite clear that Lord of the Rings is where Tolkien wanted to be.
I'm not sure that's true. I think because like he did write almost the whole of the Silmarillion prior to even picking up a pen.
I mean, but the point is, The Hobbit isn't where he wanted to. That isn't the way he wanted to tell any of this story, narratively speaking.
Oh no, God,
That's
no! So
like,
one of the huge problems when he's writing The Lord of the Rings is that like he kind of wants Bilbo to be the hero, because he obviously likes Bilbo. We'll talk a lot about how in a minute how Tolkien loves writing about hobbits. He fucking loves hobbits. But like, and he kind of just thinks it's simpler if Bilbo can be the hero of The Lord of the Rings. But in The Hobbit, he wrote, Bilbo lived happily ever after at the end of his days. And no matter what, he will not back down on that. Like
he can't force himself to contradict
Bilbo lived happily.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Exactly. He cannot retcon it. He can't go back and say, oh, but then Bilbo had a final adventure.
On a slight side note, which obviously, again, we'll get more into, it's one of the interesting conditions of the upcoming Amazon Prime Rings of Power, is basically they've said you can do whatever you want in the Second Age, you can come up with as much new shit as you want. The only rule is they can't contradict something Tolkien already wrote. They can add in new characters, they can weave those characters into narrative, but they cannot retcon anything. And they've said this leads to the hilarious thing. So we know in the Second Age are basically the ancestors of the hobbits. I can't remember what they're called, like half-foots or whore-foots, something like that, which are going to be in this series. And basically all that Tolkien says about them is hobbits do not do anything of historical note during the Second Age.
No,
so the guys who've been writing this, like, we want a role for hobbits and we think it would be really interesting, but we know that whatever they do cannot be seen to alter the events of anything, because Tolkien said they don't do anything of significance. And like, so the head of the fucking hobbity people in the Second Age is being played by none other than Sir Lenny Henry. He is the biggest, and in some ways the only big name that's in that, as we know before having seen the trailer that comes out tomorrow, 13th of February. He's the biggest name attached to it is Lenny Henry, and he's playing the chieftain of like the Hobbit tribes. And yet we know he can't do anything of historical note.
Oh my! I didn't know that. There's a lot to unpack there. So, in the first instance, I like that. Well, I mean, obviously they're legally bound. They can't contradict the word of J.R.R.
But also, that's particularly important because he says very little about the Second Age. Like, the Second Age is we know some key events, but generally, like, so Second Age starts with the destruction of Morgoth, includes the forging of the rings, and ends with the Battle of the Last Alliance. Beyond that, Tolkien doesn't give a great deal on it. So
I trust you and your superior knowledge of the Elder Days, but like, it's a necessary and bold casting decision to have a black actor play a character.
So there's a lot of that in this one. It's got a lot of shit so far. So there's a lot of so Lenny Henry is it. There is so for the viewers as of now, all we have seen at this point is shots of the cast. So we know there is a black dwarf woman.
Why the hell not?
Oh shit. I was detected. Need to be. It's really funny. Like, this article was like, and she's the first black woman to play a dwarf, and I was like in Tolkien's work, I was partly just like, true, but also she's the first woman to play a dwarf. Full stop, black or otherwise. Like,
because as we know, like, dwarves are like so alike in voice and appearance, they're often mistaken for dwarf men.
But yeah, so there's a black woman playing like a dwarf of some sort. Like, they've revealed that there's someone playing Prince Durin the something, but it's like they're like, oh, and he'll be playing Prince. Oh shit.
Oh.